The reason why we're there to communicate is to sort of form a connection and just to listen, right? We're not fixing, not trying to solve. That it's kind of reminiscence for reminiscence sake. So it's not task-oriented, right? So much of the way we relate to each other in the communication that we have, it's always task-oriented. Let's get this done. So the question I would pose to you right from the start before we get into these skills is, can you pull back from that? Because most of us have a default that is sort of task-oriented. Let's get this thing done, right? That's not what we're doing when we're bearing witness. So we've been looking at concepts like unconditional positive regard, bearing witness, and all these wonderful things, conditions of worth, Now, one of the things that we know, though, is in order to express these and do these things, we need some practical skills. There are communication and listening skills that we need to get this right. I think that when a lot of people decide they want to facilitate reminiscence work, there is this feeling of, okay, I really want to do a good job, so I need to know the right way to do it, right? I need to know what to say if, I need to know how to respond if. I think there's a very healthy kind of apprehension about trying to get it right. Now, before we get into all of those, I have a question for you. I'm wondering if you've ever had the experience of you've been speaking to someone, and maybe as you're sitting with them, you're maybe taking a moment to try to articulate what you're trying to say. Maybe you're not sure yet of what you're trying to say, or you need a minute to think about it, or maybe you want to vent about something, or you're feeling uncertain, and you're talking it through. And as you're talking it through with them, they start to say things to you like, well, did you try this? Or, well, why don't you just do this? You know what you need to do? Okay. And as you're sitting with them and they say this to you, you sort of start to feel almost a little bit maybe disappointed, and you start to pull back a little bit. Now, what's going on between two people when this happens? I think that's a really important thing for us to think about right from the outset, okay? Because what's actually happening is you're looking for something. Right? There's something you're craving, right? You're craving a little bit of space to be with someone and to think something through. And instead of them offering you that space and kind of, going with you in that, what's happening is they're sort of trying to fix you. They're kind of communicating to you, okay, well, here's what you got to do. And there's a part of you trying to communicate back, I'm not looking to be fixed. That's actually not what I'm looking for here. And usually what happens is, one person retreats and the other person seems frustrated and doesn't understand why it's not going well, right? This is a common enough exchange, I think, between all of us with friends and family and all of this. And it begs the question, what are we doing when we're communicating? Why do we communicate? We communicate for different purposes. And it's important to understand that when we're talking about reminiscence work or memories or something really important to someone, the reason why we're there to communicate is to sort of form a connection and just to listen, right? We're not fixing, not trying to solve. That it's kind of reminiscence for reminiscence sake. So it's not task-oriented, right? So much of the way we relate to each other in the communication that we have, it's always task-oriented. Let's get this done. So the question I would pose to you right from the start before we get into these skills is, can you pull back from that? Because most of us have a default that is sort of task-oriented. Let's get this thing done, right? That's not what we're doing when we're bearing witness.